Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
Welcome to Successful Dropout. This podcast is for the outliers, the innovators, the rebels, those that dare to dream and act on their dreams. I'm your host, Kylan Ginger. Join me as we find out what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. How's it going, everybody? I've got some pretty exciting news. If you listen to the podcast much, you know we've been building a pretty vibrant community of truly extraordinary people who have committed to an unconventional route through life. The Successful Dropout audience has been growing a lot, and I get a lot of people reaching out to me now with all sorts of questions regarding education, dropping out, opting out, entrepreneurship, resources, networking, etc. So much so that I decided it was time to create a more accessible community on Facebook so that we can all ask and answer these kinds of questions together, as well as celebrate our successes and encourage each other during inevitable adversity. So I've created a closed Facebook group, and I want to invite you to join it. If you follow Successful Dropout, if you resonate with our philosophy and want to help me grow this thriving community, go to successfuldropout.com/group. This community is for the rebels, the outliers, the innovators, the doers, and those who dare to dream and act on their dreams. If you're a dropout, an opt-out, if you're thinking about doing one of those things, if you're a parent, even if you aren't any of those things and you graduated school, I want to invite you to join. All that matters is that you resonate with the Successful Dropout philosophy and that you enter the group with the intention to provide value to the other members and not just receive value yourself. Again, go to successfuldropout.com/group to request admission. Once you're a part of the group, introduce yourself and get involved, and I'll see you there. What is up, Successful Dropouts? Get stoked because today on the show we have Swarnav Pujari, and that name took me a little while to remember how to say. I'm terrible with names. I need to get a lot better at this, but it's a pleasure to have him on the show. Swarnav is the CEO of TouchLight. It's a power generation solutions company for commercial spaces. I'm super stoked to get into that because it sounds really interesting. He is also a regional board member for the CleanTech Open Midwest. He brings experience in materials engineering and extensive knowledge of commercializing new technologies in the clean tech and software space. So, Swarnav, that is the intro that I have for you, man. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on this. I basically am an engineer. I like to spend my time looking for ways to solve problems that have oversaturated solutions that haven't made massive impacts yet. For instance, when you look at industries like artificial intelligence or space travel or the clean tech space right now, all of them have different solutions that are crazy and wild. Those are the type of locations I like to get into and start brainstorming for unconventional ways to solve problems and eventually take technologies that already solve those problems and allow them to come out to the consumer world. So really, I would consider myself just a geeky engineer at the end of the day, as well as a entrepreneurial-minded individual.
A geeky engineer with some entrepreneurial tendencies. I like it.
It's the perfect mix, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it makes for really interesting things that you would build for people. I bet, which I think we're about to get into. AI, you mentioned AI. Are you into artificial intelligence at all, or?
Oh, of course. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself super well versed in it. At the end of the day, AI is really he who has access to the most data. Google basically is going to win that race. However, I think it's a fascinating field, just amazing what we can do if developed properly. It is a technology which can greatly enhance the human lifestyle at the end of the day. I actually, earlier on in my entrepreneurial career, I actually dabbled with AI and machine learning. Not me being the coder itself, but being a part of the product architecting process where we built a resume builder which vetted people's resumes for recruiters off IBM Watson's open API for their artificial intelligence program. Obviously, the economics didn't work out or anything. It didn't go anywhere, but it was just a cool learning process, and I always promised myself I'd get back into it at some point in time. And I ended up finding that it's something that can be applied to every discipline, be it energy, be it education, be it anything at all. You can apply AI everywhere pretty much. It just really matters how well you can code it and what data you can pull information from. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the stuff we're starting to see now coming out from, you mentioned Google, but both, Apple and Amazon too, with all the information they're able to gather. It's pretty incredible what they've already done and what they might be able to continue to do in the future. But out of curiosity, are you sort of if you're into AI, then are you sort of in the Elon Musk, on the Elon Musk bandwagon, like robots are going to take over the world, or what's your opinion on that?
So, I mean, I'm not on Musk's side of robots are taking over the world, and I'm not on Zuckerberg's side of, we're fear-mongering.
Right.
I think there's a happy medium where we need to respect that technology of any sort, any form of high-tech, AI especially, is something that needs to be developed carefully, and it has to be a regulated industry for not only the well-being of people, but we don't want to develop it to a point where I'm sure there's a way that we could design it to replace people, not just their jobs, but people as a whole. Right. We see humanoid robots and such. Now, do I think it's a smart thing to do to consider that, hey, let's not look at AI and just think that, hey, it's going to take over the world, robots are going to kill us all like in Terminator? I don't think that's a fair way to look at it. I think it's something people need to educate themselves on, understand where technology is heading in it, and respect both the pros and the cons of such a new innovative field that people are starting to break into. So I think there's a happy medium, so I don't fall on either side.
Gotcha. Well, shoot, man, if robots do take over the world, I think I'm pretty set. I told you I live in the mountains. We've got a lodge out here kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I've got guns, and like I need to make like a go bag too. I need to get on that, but no.
Well,
I've had like, what's that?
Well, as long as they don't learn how to climb mountains, you'll be fine.
I can't ever swim. Like, we live next to a lake. So like my brother-in-law and some of my family that lives up here with us, we've had some long discussions on, because I really like zombie movies too. Like any zombie movie that comes out, like I gotta watch it. I just love them for some reason. But we always brainstorm about like, what would happen in like an apocalypse scenario, like robots take over the world, North Korea like nuke Seattle, or just any one of those possibilities, and we have a whole plan, kind of outlined for what we would do.
You have a fallout shelter?
Yeah, well, not quite yet. That's maybe the next step. First step is just kind of barricade our road, because there's like one entrance into our place from the main sort of drag, the main freeway. And then once our place got overrun, we live on a lake, so we jump in a boat, because we have a sort of a community dock down there. Go across the lake, and then across the lake is like nothing, like no civilization. And so then we do a lot of backpacking, so we think we could survive off the land for a while, and then probably die in the winter. But
well, that's a nice way to end that story.
yeah. Maybe I'll do a whole episode sometime on just my zombie apocalypse strategies, and I can give people some tips for success there.
I would definitely listen to that.
Yeah. Do you, speaking of like zombie movies and stuff like that, just out of curiosity, do you like, what do you do for fun? Like, do you watch Netflix? Do you play video games? Like, what is a guy like you who's building just cool stuff and obviously kind of a go-getter, what do you do to just sort of relax and lay back a bit?
Well, I actually am huge into playing cards. I do a lot of card magic. I practice sleight of hand a lot. I perform sometimes out on the street sometimes.
What?
Um,
Dude.
so it's just out of the blue, right? When I'm not doing that at night, I'm usually in the gym, shooting hoops. I used to be a baseball player, but ever since I had a injury on the field, health issue, I stopped that, and I've been just really doing basketball recently. Besides basketball and such, I like just taking long drives and such. And if I can race anywhere, I'll go karting. So those are my that's my checklist. Can I play cards? No. All right. Well, can I go shoot hoops? No. Well, okay. Can I go kart? If nothing else, then I'll probably just find a way to call someone up and have fun chats, or play video games. I guess I'll discover something else.
Right on. So like card tricks, like magic tricks?
I don't like saying it like that.
Okay, yeah, we can't. I mean, I know you said you were kind of geeky, but yeah, I know you have to be careful. But I can't judge you though, because I was big into like coin tricks and stuff like that. I had all these books. My wife found them the other day, and she was making fun of me. I'm right with you, man.
All right, well, I'm not that nerdy, and that's so that your listeners don't get into a position like who is this kid? No, it's more about finding card manipulation. It's like I'm not the right person to play poker with in a private game. That's more along what I like to do. So I like controlling cards, seeing where I can manipulate them to get it into the positions that I wanted, and obviously ways to practice that is what a lot of people call magic. But at the end of the day, it's really just practicing sleight of hand and misdirection.
Right, okay. No, I've got it. That's definitely way cooler than just saying you do magic tricks, card magic tricks on the street or something.
Exactly.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's some really good magicians out there that I've seen. It's like, I don't know how you did that, but well, can you count? Do you count cards then, or something crazy like that?
Yeah, that's like the basics of where I started. So
what? Can you actually count cards?
Yeah, so I'm not the again, you don't want to be playing. There's ways to do it. You don't want to play anything with me, basically, that has to do with cards. For instance, like the standard game you'll play with friends sometimes is a BS, right? Where you basically have to walk your way through.
I may have all the time.
I may have a deck of 20 cards in hand, and I may put down, or people may think I put down 3 cards, but I still haven't been caught to date putting down over 10 cards in one play and one hand by palming away cards. So I always happen to win in the least number of moves, and people never are able to backtrack how. So that's why I don't play cards with me in a private game.
Oh, you're kidding me. Dang it. This is when I wish this interview, this podcast was live, like I could interview people live, because I have a stack of cards like in my desk right now. I would totally get those out. I'd want to play something with you to see. Oh, we just watched that movie. I don't remember what it's called. Is it called? It might be called 21. Now You See Me? I think it's called 21. Well, Now You See Me. That's a good one. But there's the one, I think it's called 21. All these kids that they go to Vegas and they count cards and they get, sort of progressively into more and more trouble because of it. Yeah, but Now You See Me, that's good. Yeah. Well, shoot, man. There's a little nugget of information I didn't know about you. That's fascinating. Well, to count cards, you got to have a pretty quick mind then.
It's not necessarily counting cards at the basic. It's more of, if I become the dealer in a private game, I'm going to know where each card is, and I can control to whatever kind of hand I want to give myself. And even after that, I'm handing it down to the next person, so I already know where all the cards that I want are going to fall. So I've already controlled my next 2 hands for games. So, I mean,
Lord.
That's what a lot of people consider counting cards, which is the more easier way for me to get by, rather than having to think and memorize where each 52 cards are.
Yeah, okay. Well, still, that's pretty incredible, though. I like it. Was that just Did you have to do that out of necessity at some point? Or was it just a hobby, like something you watch a movie and you're just like, oh, that'd be cool, and then you discovered you had a knack for it, or?
It's really just something that randomly happened. Like one day I just kind of picked up a deck of cards and I was like, huh, this is pretty cool. Then I went on YouTube. I know that doesn't sound very exciting, and I saw a few magic tricks. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cute. Going from there, basically it spiraled out, and the real thing that hooked me into sleight of hand and performance is really what it can actually build into business. I mean, understanding it, even when you look at things like any big business, at the end of the day, it's a lot of people don't know how an iPhone works or understand what's going on the inside. To most people, it's a black box that's literally performing magic in front of their eyes on a day-to-day basis. So it actually plays in. Well, I mean, I'll join you too on that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I also don't understand that I would love to understand, that I just look at it and I'm like, that's magical. Like, how are we going to get to Mars? I look at that and I see Elon Musk and I'm like, well, that's magic to me.
That is magical.
it's all about performance and the way you position things, which, I've learned a few things from there. I've learned things from playing baseball for most of my life, and it's you can learn different things to apply in entrepreneurship in every aspect of your life, from hobbies to dumb things that you do to kill time.
Yeah, no, totally. We call those transferable skills here on the show. Just basically skills that you might learn in one thing, and once you decide to move on, say it's another job or another business or another situation, could be a completely unrelated venture. Some of those skills can still probably transfer over, and so being able to focus on skills that are transferable with whatever you decide to do in life, and they can kind of build and build and build on each other, and you can extrapolate sort of from those past experiences. I would be curious. You seem like, you seem like you're in the know with what is probably going on at the forefront of some new technologies in just things in the software space, and just out of curiosity, what are some, if you know them, what are some of the big, big technical advances, like clean tech advances, software advances, biotech advances that we can expect in the next decade to 20 years, basically in our lifetime? What will I be able to do when I'm 50? Does that make sense? And I don't know if you...
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you're asking. So it's always
we don't get a lot
difficult.
of people like you on the show sometimes, who are sort of on the forefront of this space. I'm just curious.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm on the forefront of the space either. I just enjoy reading about different things and, expanding my knowledge, and it's just one space I've spent a lot of time in.
Right, yeah. Well, you probably know more than 90% of everybody you're talking to right now.
You never know. You can learn something new from every single person. But I guess my answer to that is I think there's a massive growth in two areas. You're going to see in biotech field, there's going to be some massive advances that we're going to start to come across. You can see with Elon Musk, his name is probably going to come up quite often with many entrepreneurs that are in the tech space. Neuralink, you're trying to upload, your brain to a computer potentially and connecting them. Is that something that eventually is going to happen? I don't know if it's going to be exactly how Musk may envision it, but I'm sure there's entrepreneurs out there right now that are hustling, that have created some crazy idea where they can enhance people's memory retention using some microchip and such. So that biotech field is something I would expect to slowly and surely grow into a massive industry in the next 10 to 20 years, most indefinitely. The energy space is exploding right now. It's, at one of the peaks I've seen a lot of new innovation and such with, Tesla and so many different solar companies, so many different wind companies. In energy, the biggest advances that we're seeing are more along the lines of manufacturing processes and reducing the cost of electricity. A lot of people don't know, but coal is actually subsidized in some places by the government and such. So in ways that you can think about, solar itself has gotten really cheap. I read an article, forgetting where I read it specifically, but supposedly solar panels in Dubai, there were proposals to generate electricity at 1 cent a kilowatt hour, which is insanely low. I mean, that was break-even pricing for that company that was doing it, or they're not operating at a profit, or someone subsidized those panels, whatever it may be. But increase in manufacturing processes, mass producing, and new innovative ways to harvest energy are going to be the big changes you're going to see in the energy space. And in terms of AI, you're going to see that as a massive growth, I think, in the next decade itself, from companies of Google and self-driving cars. You're going to see a lot of automated tasks that before were very mundane for humans to do, allowing for humans to focus on primarily advancing their knowledge in higher technical tasks, rather than having to, work in a factory line, which now it's becoming safer because now you're automating the entire process with robots. So I think you're going to see a lot of automation that's going to build off AI, where it's going to be able to self-correct itself, make small adjustments and repairs without having a human needing to be in direct control at all times. And that's something we're seeing with self-driving cars. But that's my little tidbit, or my perspective on the current market and where it's heading in the big fields, of course. And I'm sure new markets will be discovered as we all grow older.
Oh, for sure, for sure. No, that's exciting stuff, and I'll tell you, I am absolutely stoked for self-driving cars to become mainstream. Oh, I can't imagine being able to. We have like an hour and a half commute to town. It's only a couple times a week where we work on some of our businesses, but yeah, that'd be so cool to be spending that hour and a half just talking to people on the podcast or something like that. I don't know. We definitely live in a very exciting time.
Get a Tesla.
Yeah. Yes. Dream car right there. Okay, well, cool. I would like to transition now and talk about TouchLight, because it looks like a very interesting technology in a nutshell, and correct me if I'm just completely wrong, but it looks like you're generating power from people walking.
In a nutshell, you basically hit it on the head. So
that's okay. Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. So tell us about TouchLight, how it started, and what exactly you guys do and how that's going.
So, fun fact, the way TouchLight actually started, I thought of this back in high school. I was working in the materials field. I was doing a lot of research on materials that can generate electricity from pressure, which is piezoelectrics. They're basically crystals that you apply a force to. It can generate electricity, or small tidbits of electricity. And while researching that field, I was saying, hey, this energy space, there is one demographic that's lacking. Now, solar panels are perfect for homes. You can turn homes into self-generating utility businesses, basically, depending on your location. Wind turbines work perfect out in the Midwest, where there's a lot of wind and open prairie kind of land. So there was one demographic that wasn't hit, which was the city demographic, where there's no room to really put solar panels unless you're able to install them on the side of the building, but then still you're going to have a bad angle to harvest the energy from the sun. Right. So you needed to find a different way to morph an energy solution into a city demographic to allow cities to now become their own private utility and allow self-generation. So while thinking about this, fascinating enough, I was walking through my school hallway And while walking through, I saw someone walking, and it just, honestly, as cliche as it sounded, light bulb went off, and I said, hey, if I can harvest you walking, there's millions of people walking in cities, then maybe there's a viable solution here. I explored that, and I developed an ambient energy harvester, which is basically a system which harvests all forms of energy when people are walking in cities. And it generates 10 watt minutes of power, which basically takes 60 steps. You get a light bulb lit up for an hour. And if you get close to 500 to 1,000 people walking across this annually, you can actually save up to 50% off your utility bill. For instance, like Atlanta Airport, which gets 70,000 people a day walking through one of their terminals, and that's consistent traffic daily. If we installed our systems there, we could take the entire airport off the grid and save them 50% on their utility bill.
Gosh. That's nuts, man. That's some incredible technology. So where are you in the development of, like, how long has it been around? Have you installed these systems in any working place right now, or is it still kind of a work in progress?
So development, obviously, for these things take time. We currently have functional systems. We've deployed not permanent, but temporary installations. We did one at a Knicks game. We did one in a high school for a month. And now we're focusing purely on getting the product ready, getting it through manufacturing and production to start doing permanent installs at the cusp and turn of the new year. So right now we are at the stage of, pre-production, basically.
Gotcha.
So that's really where we stand in terms of deployments. You can actually find plenty of other technologies that are similar in terms of concept. However, there's no technology which can actually save you money on electricity that is significant. Of course, any power generated can save you, maybe 1/100th of a cent, but you're talking something insignificant at that point. So in our case, we actually are able to save people, thousands on their utility bill for commercial locations that spend, hundreds of thousands annually.
Right. And is this because it's just some sort of proprietary technology
Correct.
that you come up with building this stuff? Okay, sweet. And what does this look like? Like, is it like tiles in the floor that you install essentially, or?
Yeah. So, how, again, Musk is going to come up again. The Tesla solar roof, right? How it looks disguised into the roof. Much like that, our systems are disguised into your floor.
Okay, I see. So could I actually, but if they were, say, installed in like an airport, a hallway or something like that, am I going to notice like a difference between their regular flooring and this kind of flooring, and so I know where to like step to generate electricity? Or
yes, if you pay attention. So yes, if you pay close attention, you'll be able to notice that, hey, it looks a little different. However, we want to disguise it so that people aren't thinking about walking on a different kind of flooring, because we're trying to modify into your floor and not create a extra potential delay in an airport where some people might be fascinated and want to spend some time taking pictures or whatever it may be with it, right? Or just fascinated by what this thing is in the ground that's moving a little bit when they walk on it.
Does it actually give, like, have a little bit of give or something like that? Yes. I used to be a contractor and flip houses and stuff, so that's why I'm kind of curious about.
That's also a field that also fascinates me. Also, so maybe we'll talk off screen about that as well. So,
all right.
But yes, it gives 5 millimeters, but it meets the International Building Code standard. We're in the process of getting those certifications.
Oh, sweet!
So it feels like you're walking on a carpet.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Man, that's super interesting. So do you have you like raised investor money, or are you bootstrapping it for now, or?
Well, we've decided to go as bootstrap as possible, but now we are starting to go institutional. So we did as much work as we could within, family, friends kind of money. And we got as far as we did, which, is good. And right now we are actually in the process of raising capital for the business to get it launched. So we are looking for seed investors.
Oh, right on, dude. That's exciting. And then towards the end of the year is when you're supposed to start the manufacturing process and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, we're kind of catching you right before you sort of launch off into whatever it turns out to be. I'm sure it'll be awesome.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right on, man. So did you, it's a question I usually ask towards the beginning of the interview, but I haven't yet. Did you drop out at all? Are you a dropout?
I did leave college actually 2 semesters ago. I left college to focus full time on this, as it was taking more time than I could put in either bucket. So I thought it was probably best to spend the time here. You can always go back to college. As much as I value that education, I think it's something that you can get at a later stage as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so did you were you already working on TouchLight before you made the decision to leave school then?
Yeah. So I was working on it, kind of moonlighting as much as I could. But when I realized that other people don't work on your schedule, that's when I decided to make the jump.
Right. And how did your friends and family take that?
They were very supportive of it. Obviously, it was something that needed to be given a lot of thought. Everyone wanted to think about it. Obviously, within the family, we had to make a collective decision, thinking about what the benefits, risks, and everything could be of it. And at the end of the day, we decided, hey, this is something that is worth exploring and can only result in good things. I mean, at the end of the day. So that's the reason we took that jump. Some friends were very supportive. Some friends were comical, definitely developed a funny bone after they heard. So that was the friends' reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'll. I'm sure they'll eat their words or whatever in a couple more years.
I'm sure it was all in good faith, anyways.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I get a lot of emails from listeners of the show who have made the decision to drop out for one reason or another. Usually, most often, if I'm coaching them correctly, it's because they're dropping out to build something, or they've already started building something in college and then they drop out. But that's one of the main questions, or I guess frustrations, I tend to notice people have most often is just the reaction from family and friends. And usually family is one of the first groups to sort of come around and support, but friends are sometimes a lot tougher, because I know when you first drop out, you're working on something, it's people will judge you if you're not succeeding in the short term, basically.
Exactly.
And if you're just sort of hustling away on something, like oftentimes you don't see results from anything you're building for even a couple years. And so, all your friends are graduating and starting to get jobs, and of course they have a lot of debt most of the time and stuff like that. But so I always try to encourage our listeners, don't pay attention to what people are saying in the short term. Like, don't pay attention to people judging you in the short term. You're choosing a different path, therefore your life is going to look different. And, people are sometimes scared or even jealous or like just insecure about what's different around them. And,
of course.
But in the long run, I think you'll end up building a life that you're more proud of, that you have more freedom in, and becoming a better version of yourself, I think, by taking that route. And
Of course.
yeah, I'm sure your peers will be, obviously be fine too, but later on, maybe even much later on down the road, they might be the ones saying, well, maybe I should have, taken matters in my own hands a little earlier.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have it bang on. It's the day you stop realizing that what they're suggesting is their perspective, and you accept that you are doing what you think is best for yourself. I think as long as you don't quit when any sane man would quit, that is what defines what is going to result in success at the end of the day. It's, as an entrepreneur in any which way, be it you're doing a podcast, you're building a tech company, or, selling shoes or whatever it may be, at the end of the day, another person looking in isn't going to understand what you have emotionally and personally dedicated towards it. So, if you take the leap of faith to drop out and work full time on a business idea that you've built, it's really just don't quit when any sane man would. It's really just a matter of finding a way to pivot away from the wall you're at and moving forward in any which way possible.
Yeah. Love it, man. Well, do you read at all? And if so, do you have any books you'd recommend to us?
Books I would recommend for entrepreneurs.
Resources, or
I would say there's 3 books I would greatly recommend for anyone reading, and I'm sure 2 of them you've definitely heard of. Crossing the Chasm. I'm forgetting the guy's first name, but it's by Moore, Jeff Moore or something. The Lean Startup, which is Eric Rice, and The Customer Service Revolution by John R. DeJulius III, if I remember correctly. 3 really great books to read for entrepreneurship.
Right on. We'll have those in the show notes. And I have a couple more questions for you, too, before I let you go here. Do you have any parting advice for any of our listeners who are thinking of dropping out of college to be an entrepreneur, but they haven't quite made that step yet?
So this actually goes back to something I learned during my baseball days. I actually was a fanatic in that field. I was a pitcher. And I was actually recruited to play in Division I college. I was looked at by scouts from University of Connecticut and such.
Right on.
And it was basically, hey, this is going to be great. I'm going to go focus on this. I'm going to make the MLB, and so on and so forth. I ended up having a health issue that limited me from being able to play or do athletics anymore after that. But there was a event that happened during that process, which I think can be of value to people who are debating this dropout period, where when you're at that stage where you're like, hey, if I leave school, what's going to happen? What are people going to say? It's usually the biggest thing that drives is what are people going to say when I'm going to leave? For the most part, if you think about it, the person who is actually in the process of wanting to drop out has already made a subconscious decision that they want to leave. And this was something that ended up happening with me where mentally I wanted to get back on the field. I wanted to find every which way to find a way to get back out there, get back scholarships, go and still follow the MLB route and so on and so forth. But for whatever reason, every single time I tried to speed up my recovery, push it, so on and so forth, get back on the field and, work out harder and so on and so forth. There was always something that was already keeping me back, and I was starting to see more and more of my time was going towards this research idea I had, which ended up actually becoming TouchLight. So when that was happening, I had plenty of friends, my coaches and all, that were looking at me and saying, hey, Swarnav, why aren't you, back to your normal state? They were concerned why I wasn't, operating in my full steam still. They thought I was still recovering and having relapse from that injury. But subconsciously, from laying in that hospital bed, I had made a decision that this isn't going to work out after this injury. And it was much like how a person who's going through a dropout experience is probably making the subconscious decision, I want to find every which way to give every waking moment of my time to this business idea or passion that I have. And for me, it was, I want to start focusing on something that I think has, world-changing potential, rather than just leaving a legacy on people on a field. I can do something for the world, and legacy has been everything I've chased. So my mind subconsciously told me that, hey, we're going to head towards this route. And lo and behold, it took 8 to 10 months, but eventually I realized that, and I took the hard decision to not play anymore. Or even explore it further and just use it as a hobby. That's why I still play basketball sometimes. I get on the field when I can and play baseball with friends if I can, pitch to my brothers and such. But learning doesn't stop because you're not in school. You're going to be learning in a different way. Your different classes, going out into the world and getting punched in the face by each, next step you're going to get, each new challenge that you're going to solve. So when you're in that process of trying to convince others that you want to do this, take a minute, just sit down and think that, have you already made that subconscious decision that you are ready to go at this full time? Because if that is the case, then I don't think there's going to be any challenge at all convincing your family and your friends. Though it could be tough, it could take 8 months, it could take 10 months, but I feel regardless how long it may take, it will end up being a successful dropout.
Dude, that was a great little monologue there. I like that a lot. Just turn that into a little ebook.
Hey, well, why not, right?
Yeah. What was your injury, if you don't mind me asking, or how did that happen?
So we still don't know. It was a pancreas related issue,
Man.
where it just started acting all funky and producing crazy numbers of enzymes and such, and just basically messed me up to a point where I passed out in the school one day. And next time I woke up, I saw myself being lofted into an ambulance, seeing my dad. And the next time after that, I wake up in the hospital and they're like, well, you have, pancreatitis. You have that diagnosis. I'm like, what the hell is this? So I barely remember any of that experience. Then I tried to rush my recovery, got back on the field, collapsed again because I tried to rush it. And, I ended up back in the hospital again. And I think that's when I really had that subconscious decision that, hey, you got some other way that's God's given you to leave a legacy on the world. Start exploring that, no matter how long it takes. So that was what I ended up going through.
Yeah, seriously, that's kind of a that's a life-changing experience right there.
Learn something new from everything, right?
Yeah, that can be scary too. I passed out from heat exhaustion once in the military, and woke up in the back of an ambulance too. But of course, I didn't really I was this badass young kid, could do anything, and so I didn't know what heat exhaustion really. I knew what it was, but I didn't That's not the first thing that crossed my mind. I just woke up and was like, "What the heck?" It just I was running, and then this is the next thing I remember. I was like, what happened?
Yeah. That's it's never fun to have any issue when it comes to health. Health is the biggest thing. Because if you're not healthy, you can't do anything. It doesn't matter what you want, you can't do anything if you're not healthy.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally true. Getting into the habit. If you're listening, you would be surprised how rejuvenating and energizing and just life changing it is to just get in the simple habit of working out for, even if it's like 15 minutes just daily though, even if it's like do 50 jumping jacks and 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups, something that only takes you 5-10 minutes. Like physiologically, like your endorphins, there are things that happen on a physiological level in your body that actually affects your brain and how you function and how you approach the day and your mentality around the day. If I'm having a bad day, one of the first things I check is like, when is the last time I worked out? And if it's been like 3 or 4 days, if we've been like traveling or really busy or something, it's like that is usually the cause of it. I go do a quick workout and you feel a lot better. It's that act of doing something that's uncomfortable, but that is also building your body and just making you healthier.
Individual.
It just translates. Yeah, it just translates into all these different areas of your life. So.
Oh, of course. Meditation, yoga, if you haven't tried that stuff. I don't do yoga.
We own a yoga studio, so...
Well, then you're the best. You're probably always feeling good, Kyle.
Oh man, I should do a lot more than I do. My wife is primarily she's the yoga gal, but we just did a private retreat here up at our place. She did her first private retreat and we had like 25 people up here. A lot of them we didn't know, just literally to do yoga and sort of unwind and shut off the cell phone and stuff for a weekend, and so that was really cool.
Wow.
To see. But yes, yoga, great practice. Meditation as well. Headspace is a great app for people that are wanting to get into just meditation. It's not like, it doesn't have to be all spiritual or religious, like, you just get this app and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a phenomenal practice.
Of course.
Anyways, man, what is, last question here, what parting advice do you have for any of our listeners who have already dropped out and who are already on their entrepreneurial journey? Sort of the flip side of the last question there.
Don't quit where other people would normally. Success is literally progress. And when you realize each day when you wake up that you've made some progress, it could be nominal. Like there are some days I've literally woken up and I'm like, hey, I sent 10 emails yesterday to engineers that I'm recruiting. I considered that progress enough. It wasn't great. It was tough to cope with at times. But once you're on that, it's tough because not only will you sometimes have social pressures, but you'll also put personal pressure on yourself because you took this big decision, and you don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg to be considered a successful dropout. At the end of the day, progress is success. Just don't quit where other people typically would have said, all right, well, we're going to shut the doors and move on, because that's when, unless that's the best route to pivot and open up a new business or restructure the business and such, basically the best thing to always do is look for a solution to whatever problems you have, because the people who do become successful are the ones who basically didn't stop when any normal person would have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. Absolutely. And, you were talking about the 10 emails you sent, and even though it didn't feel like that much, it was at least something. Isaac Morehouse, who's the founder of Praxis, definitely a organization you should check out, but he's also been on the podcast. He talks about his journey to building his company and how in the beginning, he just had a lot going on, and this might be you if you're listening and you're in school and you have a bunch of other things, but you also have this thing you're trying to build and you don't feel like you have the time that you want to put towards it. He talks about how he just made a commitment to do one thing every day, just one thing, no matter how small. If it was buying a domain name that day, sure. If it was sending an email to somebody, sure. If it was just getting the logo started on Fiverr or 99 Designs or something like that, as long as it was one thing every day that got him a little bit closer to building this company. And that mentality in the beginning is what really sort of set the tone for the rest of that company's early stages. And of course now they've been on Fox News and all this crazy stuff. They're really blowing up, but that is just something I've reverted to a lot too when you are getting to that point. It's just one thing every day.
Use Google Keep to make a to-do list.
Yeah. Yes. I'm glad I started using Google Keep like a year ago because I moved everything over to just the Google suite of apps, to make things a lot more simple. But there aren't. I was surprised at how few people use Google Keep. But and then there's one other person this week I can't remember that uses it, and
it's a valuable app. I don't know why people don't.
Hear that.
I don't know why people don't know it as much. Evernote has more of the marketing, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most people use Evernote, but Google Keep. I mean, if you use everything Google anyways, it's so nice to just have everything so integrated. But
your Pixel Google phone Keep, too. Well, that's a new level of
integration. Yeah, I bet.
That is the next level of Google taking over every bit of data that you have. So Google Keep is just the start.
I know. Oh shoot! Sometimes a gold pen and paper is what you need. That's actually my to-do list. Is I do everything else online, even for some of my businesses where I collaborate with other team members. I use Trello and stuff like that. But for my personal to-do list, it's been a yellow legal pad and a pen for several years. I can't get rid of the habit. But
well, that can also be backtraced also nowadays, so that's why they have shredders too. So be careful what you write.
Gosh, we're never safe.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Well, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
If anyone wants to reach out to me, they can email me directly at my TouchLight email, which is ssp@tli.technology, which is actually our domain name also, tli.technology. So if anyone has any questions, wants to talk, just wants to network, networking is an extremely valuable piece of advice for anyone who has already dropped out, because your network is your net worth at the end of the day. So if you just want to chat, I'm always happy to meet new people. So feel free to reach out to me at that email, ssp@tli.technology.
Perfect. Well, successful dropouts, you've been hanging out with Swarnav and Kylan, learning what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed as an entrepreneur. For everything we talked about today, head over to successfuldropout.com and type, let me see this, SWARNUV is how you spell your name.
AV.
Into this AV. What did I say? Oh,
UV.
Shoot. See, that's how I wrote it phonetically for me. I told you I'm bad at this, man. AV into the search bar, and the show notes will pop right up. And as always, stay hungry, stay foolish.